And our top story this Friday is another delay for Obamacare. Hope you're off to a good Friday so far, everybody. I'm Jenna Lee.
And I'm John Scott. The White House giving some Americans more time to sign up for coverage under the new law. The enrollment deadline just 10 days away. It is being pushed back another month for those who suffer from chronic illnesses. The latest delay comes at the same time as some new polling about how the new health care law could affect next year's midterm elections. USA Today Pew Research poll showing 55% of Republican voters feel that their party will do better than in recent elections. 33% expecting to do about the same. Only 5% think they can do worse. Democratic voters seem less confident. 43% saying they can do better. The same number thinking it will be about the same. 9% saying Dems will fare worse. Let's talk about it all with Monica Crowley, a Fox News contributor and author of What the Bleep Just Happened. Also, Chris Kofinas is a former chief of staff to Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, John.
Well, another revision in the law or the rules, Monica, another deadline that isn't really a deadline. What's it all mean?
Well, what we now have is a form of Obamacare that resembles very little of what was actually passed and signed into law in March of 2010. There have been so many changes to this law, most of them made unilaterally by the president and by this White House, exemptions, waivers, delays, and so on. So it doesn't really resemble what was actually passed. It's also creating enormous confusion. Remember, John, we've had a couple of waves of disaster already. We had the broken website. Then we had nearly 6 million people lose their insurance policies. And now what we're looking at is this idea that so many people have not actually gotten coverage. They may think they have gotten coverage through the healthcare.gov website or some of the state exchanges, but in fact, the onus is on the consumer to call the insurer and to make sure that there was actually some follow through. How many people have actually enrolled in Obamacare by actually paying the first premium? Nobody seems to know. And come January 1st, you could have another wave of disaster.
Chris, when you keep pushing the deadlines back and back and back and exempting some people and so forth, aren't you just inviting pretty much the nation as a whole to disregard this entire thing?
Well, I mean, obviously, the rollout has not been optimal. I think we can all say that. I mean, the reality here, I think, is you either do these delays or you face the consequences of some of the problems that kind of have already materialized. So from my perspective is it's better to do delay, to get it right, to focus on fixing it, than it is to kind of force this, unnecessarily. Listen, any complex piece of legislation, whether you're talking about, the Medicare Drug Plan Part D, whether you're talking about the, Obamacare, is going to have, initial difficulties and challenges. Unfortunately, we've had more so than we needed. But I think over the next few months, you're going to see whether this is starting to work or not. I know Republicans want to bury it, but at the end of the day, most Americans are still focused on repairing it. And that, I think, is where the administration is. But
to Monica's point, I mean, we don't know so much of the information about how many people have actually signed up or paid a premium here, Chris.
I mean, listen, I think this is going to come out. I mean, the deadline, if you will, is the end of March. That's when the enrollment period closes. We're going to know over the coming months whether they're hitting their enrollment targets. We're going to know in the coming months whether there are back-end issues in terms of people not getting coverage that they thought they had. I mean, I think we're going to have a kind of a big swell at the end, which is what tends to happen in these kind of programs. But, listen, let's be honest. If the opposite is true, if we don't hit the targets, if these problems persist, then we have a serious political and policy problem. I think that's fair to say.
Let's talk a little politics now. Speaker John Boehner has been slamming what appear to be Tea Party groups after the House passed a bipartisan budget deal that drew criticism from some corners. Now, this vote avoids a government shutdown. It saves $85 billion and rolls back part of the across-the-board cuts known as the sequester. Speaker Boehner commenting on the plan and criticizing outside conservative groups for trying to sink it. Listen.
I came here to cut the size of government. That's exactly what this bill does. And why conservatives wouldn't vote for this or criticize the bill is beyond any recognition I could come up with. There just comes to a point when some people step over the line. When you